Okay, Bruce M. in New Jersey. This is your donor radio for your Mega Build LC998v800p with the LC6404 processor board. I'm just testing this one out, making sure everything works before I start tearing it down. It looks like it does. Hello audio. I got a 100-watt slug on that side. I got the meter set to 2.5 and it's pegging out on the peak side. Talkback works. So, getting ready to take it apart. Okay, more to come. Okay, radio and amp are separated. Getting ready to take this old amp board out. Alright, got the old board out. Look how they gobbed that damn heatsink compound on there. Don't ever do this, folks. I found several of the insulators cracked. You know, and that's because it's having to mash all that stuff out from underneath it. You don't need that much on there. You want to use a liberal amount, but not gob it on like this. Okay, let me get that cleaned off. I'll be back. Look at that. I'm not done yet. That was just the initial scraping off of both sides. And in case you're wondering what I'm using, it's just a little piece of plastic that I cut off of I think this was like one of those dealer advertising tags that they stick on your car when you buy a new one. I just cut a little square out to use it for a scraper, and that's what I'm using to get the heatsink compound off here. Don't want to scar up the aluminum. I want to make sure that you don't use a metal one. Got to use plastic on these. Okay, more to come. Okay, got it all cleaned off. Got the fans out. Getting ready to put the new fans in here. New high-speed fans. And then we'll put the new amp board in here. Got it sitting right there. Okay, the new high-speed fans are in place. I moved the cables over from the old ones to these. But you can see right there. They are the new ones, the Deltas. Okay, more to come. Okay, now you can see I decided to put the heatsink compound on this time before I set the amp board on there, because last time I got some of the heatsink compound on the amp board, and I don't want to do that this time. But you can see that's all the heatsink compound you need. You don't need to gob it on there. We want to make sure that there's good contact between the transistor and the heatsink. What this is supposed to do is fill up like little cracks and stuff and help it transfer the heat better. And when you gob it on there, I think I've said this before, there's a phenomenon called hydraulicking that can actually cause an air pocket in between the transistor and the heatsink compound that'll leave a hot spot on the transistor and could cause it to fail. So just something to remember. If you're ever doing this, don't gob the heatsink compound. Put a liberal amount on there, but don't gob it on there. You know, make sure you leave it to where that the transistor itself can push it out from under it what it doesn't need to fill the cracks and stuff for an even distribution of the heat. Okay? All right, more to come. And here come the red dots. Get ready to put those in. They are a matched quad pair. You can see they're all 110s. Okay. Got the board mounted. Getting ready to install the transistors. Okay, we got them all screwed in place. I'm getting ready to lay some solder. One thing I wanted to mention is when you're doing this, if any of you ever do this, don't use a drill driver. I've got one here and I've got the clutch set all the way to its lowest setting. Sometimes it won't even take a screw out of the cover. I have to break it loose with a manual screwdriver and then take it out. But I'm saying that to say this: don't over torque these screws. Get them nice and firm, but don't put the hurdy-gurdy factor on it like we used to call it. In other words, don't torque it as hard as you can. Just make sure they're nice and snug, good and firm, so that they won't come back out. Because if you break one of these things off inside this heatsink, I can imagine you're going to have a hell of a time getting it out. Okay? And you got to have both screws to hold the transistor down and flush against the heatsink. All right, more to come. Okay, there they are, all soldered in place. I'm getting ready to put the feedback boards on now. Okay, feedback boards are in. Coax cable and power is next. Okay, got the power cables all hooked up. I need to be able to get a torch in there to do this. I've got a 230 watt gun that I was using. I've got the, don't worry, I mean, I've got a good joint there. It just looks like shit. Whereas if I had, I could get a torch in there to it, I could smooth it all out, you know, and make it flow a little better. But using a soldering gun, you can't really do that. Using some new cable for the connection to the radio. This time I probably won't do it anymore because it's too damn stiff, but it's marine grade cable. It's Ancor marine grade, 4AWG, been Coast Guard approved. It's boat cable, 600 volts, 105 degrees centigrade dry, 75 degrees centigrade wet, oil resistant, blah blah blah. Okay, I got that going to the radio. I think from now on I'm going to use the flex cable because it's easier to route into the amplifier, and you know, I don't think, I mean, this is good cable. It's marine grade cable. And if some of you want me to make up your power cable out of this, then I'll do that. But this is some very expensive shit. It's like $6 a foot for this stuff. It was well over $100 for the 25-foot pieces that I got. So it's been Coast Guard approved, like I said. It's marine grade cable. But there's the connections. They're good and solid. There's no shorts. I've already checked that. So I'm getting ready to put the to crimp the end on it. Crimp and solder the end. And also got to modify the holder so that it'll go over this 4-gauge cable. Still clamp in place. Alright, more to come. Okay, got that all modified, getting ready to put it on. You can see I cut out the holes here so that they'll fit over the wire, and also had to take some of that out on the inside so that it would fit over the wire. Alright, more to come. Okay, there it is. It was a bitch to put on there too. This cable is not flexible like that other stuff is. So I had a hell of a time getting this keeper on there. I'm getting ready to put the RTV down in here now, make sure that nothing can get inside the amp from the bottom. Okay. Alright, more to come. Okay, Bruce wanted to show you the connections. You can see they're double crimped and soldered. Alright, had to use a propane cylinder to get them hot enough for the solder to melt down in there. So I'm getting ready to put the heat shrink over them now. And the reason I do that is because once they're inside the Anderson power poles, still got a fairly huge opening here in the back. Something could get in there. So I'm going to put heat shrink over them. It's more for the positive wire than it is for the negative wire, but I'm going to put the heat shrink on both of them. Okay, more to come. Heat shrink is on. Okay, got them in the Anderson power pole. You see why I put the heat shrink around it, because those openings in the back of these are pretty damn big. It would be pretty easy for something to get in there and touch that positive wire. Okay, that's all done. I'm getting ready to put the lid on top of it. I've already tested it. It checks good. So, more to come. Okay, got her all hooked up. Still on 10 meters. I haven't converted it yet. I got a 1,000-watt slug in that side, a 500-watt slug in that side. Left is RMS, right is peak. I'm on AM. Hello, audio, audio, hello, audio, 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 audio. About 900 watts right there. Hello, audio, audio, 1, 2. Audio, 1, 2. Is that about 250 RMS? You can hear the fans. That's somebody else with a blower outside there. Okay. Alright, amp's working great, man. I'm gonna put the covers on it. And I just got just a test cable hooked up. It's a little 8-gauge cable going to my little 50 amp switcher. Okay, my little bench switcher right there. The meter said 48 amps. So the lights on the bench were dimming. I'm sure that it was straining to do what it could do. But I got the big power supply sitting over there. I'll get it hooked up here shortly. Okay, more to come.